Imagine being exiled from your homeland only to find your true calling in a distant land. In today's story, we follow a Russian aristocrat's journey to San Giovanni Rotondo. Stay tuned. Welcome to Following Padre Pio. Whether you're a returning viewer or new to our channel, we're excited to have you with us. Padre Pio, a Capuchin friar, mystic, and miracle worker, continues to inspire and intercede in powerful ways today. Join us as we share new videos and shorts 5 days a week, diving into the extraordinary life and miracles of this beloved saint. Discover how Padre Pio's legacy can touch your life and the lives of your loved ones. Subscribe now and let's embark on this spiritual journey together. And now to our story. Today's story comes from the book Pray, Hope, and Don't Worry. True Stories of Padre Pio, Book 2 by Diane Allen. Within its pages, we find a remarkable tale about a Russian aristocrat's journey to priesthood. Now, I really like this story, not only because it involves a compelling mystical experience, but also because it provides a glimpse into the atmosphere surrounding Padre Pio in San Giovanni Rotondo. Listen to this. Karl Klugkist was born in Kiev on March 25, 1871. However, he was exiled from the Russian Empire and relocated to Rome during World War I when the communist Bolsheviks came to power. Intelligent, well-educated, and deeply spiritual, Karl was on a quest to grow closer to God. In 1919, Karl first heard about Padre Pio from a priest he met in Foggia. This priest had known Padre Pio since he was a 15-year-old novice in the Capuchin novitiate in Morcone. There was not a trace of evil in Brother Pio, he said. Intrigued, Karl read some articles about Padre Pio. You can just imagine the excitement he must have felt, much like any of us learning about Padre Pio for the first time. So, of course, he decided to visit Padre Pio for spiritual guidance. However, Karl had to wait 2 days to get a seat on the bus that traveled from Foggia to San Giovanni Rotondo. San Giovanni was already a popular destination, as many people wanted to make their confession to Padre Pio. He was finally able to board the bus, but it was anything but a comfortable journey. It took 2 hours for the old bus to maneuver along the worst kind of roads. On the journey, Karl enjoyed looking out the window at the wide expanse of sky. He also enjoyed breathing the fresh mountain air. However, the closer he got to San Giovanni Rotondo, the more oppressive the landscape became. Shrub trees and rocks covered the barren hills, and the bleakness of the area made Karl feel depressed. Now, before the trip, Karl obtained a letter of introduction from the Archbishop of Gaeta. The letter included a request that Karl be allowed to speak to Padre Pio. When he arrived at the convent, he handed the letter to the first Capuchin he saw. The friar instructed Karl to enter the church through a small door leading from the courtyard. When Karl walked into the church, the first thing he noticed was a Capuchin priest who was hearing a man's confession in an open confessional. The penitent who knelt beside the priest appeared to be a local farmer. Slowly, the priest raised his head and looked up at Karl. He recognized the priest immediately. It was Padre Pio. The sight of him filled Karl with a mix of surprise and fear. I imagine this brief moment felt as if it lasted for minutes. Furthermore, the corridor was crowded with men waiting to confess, making it clear that if Karl wanted to speak with Padre Pio, he'd have to join the line. At the other end of the corridor, a number of men were trying to force their way through a door to get to the confessional line. They all appeared to be local farmers. The noise and commotion they were making struck Karl as very disrespectful. Karl took his place in the line and began to prepare himself for his encounter with Padre Pio. From where he was standing, he could easily observe Padre Pio. Karl noticed that he remained still, with his arms either crossed or resting on the chair in front of him. As Karl looked at Padre Pio, he was awed by the beauty of his face. It was the most beautiful face he had ever seen. In fact, he got so caught up in gazing at Padre Pio that he forgot all about making his preparation for confession. He was so distracted that he let 6 men go in front of him. Suddenly, a man, thinking to do Karl a favor, pushed him forward. Karl could no longer delay the encounter. As he knelt before Padre Pio, he realized how truly unprepared he was. Padre Pio asked Karl when his last confession was. He answered that it was the day before. "What sins have you committed since yesterday morning?" Padre Pio asked. Karl could not think of a single sin to confess. "I came here hoping that I might be able to have a chat with you," Karl explained. "That is impossible," Padre Pio answered. "There are too many people waiting in line. I cannot allow people to have a chat with me. If you have something to tell me, you must tell it to me during confession." Now, Karl had written down a list of things he wanted to discuss with Padre Pio, but unfortunately he left the list in his suitcase. He knew that he had no time to waste, so he began talking about himself, jumping from one period of his life to another in no particular order. As he spoke, he continued to study Padre Pio. Padre Pio was different from anyone Karl had ever met. He felt that he was in the presence of a true saint. Padre Pio was like a bright light shining in a dark world. He was direct and confident, and there were no traces of false sweetness. He kept his head lowered and never once looked directly at Karl. At one point, Padre Pio blew on his hands as if they were burning, which is a very interesting detail, reminding us that Padre Pio's stigmata was constantly causing him discomfort. When Karl finished, Padre Pio said, "You are seeking the way, but you have already found the way." He did not give him any advice. He left Karl free to make his own decisions. Before leaving the confessional, Karl kissed Padre Pio's hand. To his great surprise, he noticed a beautiful perfume coming from his hand. During his stay, Karl had the opportunity to attend Padre Pio's Mass. When Padre Pio came out of the sacristy, a great silence fell upon the congregation. Padre Pio had removed his gloves, and Karl saw a red circular mark about the size of a small coin in the middle of each of his hands. During the consecration, Karl noticed blood trickling from the wounds. Receiving Holy Communion from Padre Pio moved him to tears. Furthermore, Karl shared that he enjoyed walking around town, feeling as though he had stepped back in time. Everywhere he went, people shared fascinating stories about Padre Pio, and Padre Pio started to remind him more of a prophet from the Middle Ages than a man of the 20th century. One story he heard involved a blind woman who regained her sight after a brief encounter with Father Pio. Karl spoke to Padre Pio one last time before leaving San Giovanni Rotondo, and Padre Pio promised to keep him in his prayers. Back in Rome, Karl spent many hours in prayer, seeking the Lord's guidance. He was still trying to discern the path God was calling him to follow. One day, while he was praying before the Blessed Sacrament, he saw a vision. 2 hands emerged from the tabernacle, holding a white habit with a red and blue cross. He thought his mind was playing tricks on him, so he rubbed his eyes to make sure he was actually seeing what he thought he was seeing. The habit was still there. It was not his imagination. And then, finally, it disappeared. Karl shared the unusual experience with his confessor, who identified the habit as belonging to the order of the Most Holy Trinity, also known as the Trinitarians. He introduced Karl to the superior of the order, and, seeing the habit in person, confirmed his calling. Karl joined the Trinitarian order, took the name Brother Pio, and later became Father Pio of the Most Holy Trinity. He was sent to Canada, where he made his solemn vows in 1924. Throughout his ministry, he felt Padre Pio's guidance and attributed his successes to Padre Pio's intercession. Father Pio of the Most Holy Trinity died in Halifax, Nova Scotia in 1948 after a long and fruitful ministry in the service of the Lord. End of story. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means the world to us. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it with your friends. This simple action helps our channel grow and reach more people who love Padre Pio as much as you do. We have more inspiring Padre Pio stories and reflections waiting for you. Check out the specially recommended videos on the end screen, or click the links in the description below for our full selection of great content, including our Padre Pio Thoughts for the Day playlist. And don't forget, you can also enroll your Mass intentions for next Friday's Padre Pio Holy Mass. The link is in the description below. Thank you for being a part of our community, and stay tuned for our next video on the life of Padre Pio.